Hello, I'm Jason Hibbets. By day, I'm the project manager and team lead for opensource.com. You've heard a lot about that. We're an online publication and community highlighting how the principles of open source, things like rapid prototyping, collaboration, participation, can be applied to other disciplines such as business and education and government, which is the topic of today. By night, I'm a self-proclaimed civic geek. I'm the captain for Code for Raleigh, the Code for Raleigh Brigade, and a co-chair for CityCamp, North Carolina. Through my work at opensource.com, I discovered the open government and open data movements. I found a way to blend my passions, my passion for civic participation, my passion for open source, and my passion for my local community, Raleigh. My mission has been to improve the citizen experience. And today, I'd like to share with you a few things on how we're making that vision become a reality. I'm not a coder, but I'm a community organizer. And like any open source project that needs contributors, I found a way to bring my skill set to the table. Most of you probably view government like this. You put taxes in and you get services out. Things like police protection and fire protection and trash collection. Well, I view government like this. Us, all of us in this room, together, working as citizens and being actively engaged in our city. Well, my story started a few years ago when I got a chance to interview Mayor Charles Meeker. And I sat down in his office, and we talked about how we could apply the principles of open source to a living and breathing city. I published the interview, and something happened that I didn't expect. People started to contact me, and they said, we want to help. We want to help you explore this idea of an open source city. So we started to form a community around the idea of open source and open government. And eventually that included open data. So we started exploring the idea of the open source city brand and what that would mean for a place like Raleigh. I discovered a movement called CityCamp. It's an international unconference series that's designed to bring open source thinking to local governments through technology and citizen ideation. There have been CityCamp events all over the world. I've had the privilege to attend CityCamps in Denver, Kansas City, and Honolulu. A group of citizens, including one of our own city councilors, came together to plan the first CityCamp Raleigh. Gail and her team was very supportive of our citizen-led efforts. We've run 4 successful city camps in the Triangle, 2 branded as CityCamp Raleigh, and 2 as CityCamp North Carolina. These events have drawn interest from over 150 attendees at each event and have really helped to improve our government and explore ways that citizens can contribute. We've had some great success with our city camps, and some really cool projects have come out of the events and the competition. We have Triangle Wiki. I like to describe it as a hyper-local version of Wikipedia, where citizens can edit their city. So citizens in Raleigh and Durham and Cary can add their favorite parts of the area that they live in. Our most successful application has been an application called Our Greenway. It's a mobile app that uses open data from the city that allows people to explore our extensive trail and park system. We needed to evolve CityCamp. We rebranded it as CityCamp North Carolina to extend our reach beyond the Triangle. Along the way, the CityCamp organizers eventually became Code for Raleigh, a Code for America Brigade, and we partnered with Code for America. Code for America is a nonprofit out of San Francisco, California, whose mission is to bring open source technologies to governments. They have several programs to accomplish this mission, but the most popular is their fellowship program. It assigns a team of problem solvers to applicant cities every year. The solutions that the fellows design are all open source, and that means that other municipalities around the world can implement and deploy these solutions. The program that Code for Raleigh is part of is the Brigade. It allows volunteers like myself and my fellow captains, we mentioned Chad earlier, Chad's one of our captains, to help our local city through civic hacking, but in partnership with our city. I like to think of our Brigade as a safe place to learn how to code. So if you're a student or if you're new into coding, we've got a place where you can come have an impact and really code to something that's going to influence and have a positive influence on your community. Our Brigade is currently working to build out some of our infrastructure. We're using a technology called Ladder to help with our web presence. We've deployed a discussion forum called Discourse to host our conversations and reduce our email. This is an example of a Discuss forum, and you can see it's actually branded as Code for North Carolina. So it's a way for us not only to communicate with our folks in Raleigh and the Triangle, but with other brigades across the state, including Asheville and in Charlotte. We're working on projects that are monthly meetups, such as NC Freewheeling, the winner of this year's CityCamp competition. It's an application that uses open data from the state of North Carolina to promote safe bike routes. Locally, we have other brigades too. So if you don't live in Raleigh, you can help out our friends in Cary and in Durham. We've got a meetup group where you can see all the events that we have going on. Code for Durham recently released an app called NC Food Inspector, and they intentionally named it North Carolina Food Inspector as opposed to Durham Food Inspector. It's basically integrating health data from restaurants to allow people to see the health scores online. There are brigades all over the United States, in fact, all over the world. So no matter whether you're in Miami, Atlanta, DC, New York, Boston, Japan, Ireland, there are brigades everywhere. And if there's not a brigade in your local area, then your challenge would be to find out if there's a civic hacking presence and maybe form a new brigade. Part of the reason we've been so successful is because of our partnerships. We already talked about the Digital Connector program. We've partnered with a group called Innovate Raleigh, and we're always hanging out at our cool startups and co-working spaces of American Underground and HQ Raleigh. So Raleigh is helping to lead the parts of the open government and open data movements. And we're helping to blaze a trail for other cities to become an open source city, and we're sharing our story along the way. While Gail and I are on stage here sharing our story, I took the time to actually write it all down in a book. It's called The Foundation for an Open Source City. The book outlines the elements of an open source city, highlighting the culture of participation that we have here in Raleigh. It includes details on our open government and open data policies, kind of the behind the scenes on how you actually get that stuff done. I also talk about why it's important to support user groups and host conferences such as All Things Open. And one of the reasons why All Things Open here is here in Raleigh. I was giving a talk at Southeast Linux Conference a few years ago. Todd Lewis happened to be in the room and said, hey, let's talk. We want to bring a conference to Raleigh. And that's one reason why All Things Open was here in Raleigh last year, and it's another reason why it's back this year. I already passed my slide, but I also talk about the importance of economic development and how open source and open data can create jobs and create a thriving community for businesses. And of course, I'm going to continue my storytelling on opensource.com. So at Red Hat, our mission is to be a catalyst in communities, and I'm fortunate to be able to work with such passionate open source communities. I have a great team at opensource.com, including our amazing community moderators. Working with CityCamp, Code for Raleigh, and the City of Raleigh has been a great experience. Together, we are changing the citizen experience. And your mission is to find your community and go change the world the open source way. Thank you. Any questions? Do we have time for questions? Does anyone have questions? Just keep talking. I think it'll turn it on. It's like magic. Or you can just talk to me and I'll repeat the question.
I just have a question with regard to one of the points in both of your discussion. One was, the whole coding process and setting up, the safety kind of place to. Are you familiar with the coder dojos and what's happening with the coder dojos around the world?
So the question is around, are we familiar with, around creating safe coding places, and are we familiar with coder dojos? I'm familiar with them, Gail. I don't know if you are familiar with the coder dojo community. Okay, well, I'll give Gail an update on the dojos and see how we can partner with them as well. Great. I think we're going to go outside and be able to do some more questions. So thanks for listening, and Todd, take it away.